Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her stethoscope against the alien's chest, listening to a heart that beat with 3 chambers instead of 4. The creature lay dying on the emergency room table, its silver skin growing paler by the minute. "We're losing him," she whispered to her colleague, Dr. Marcus Webb. "His blood pressure is dropping fast." The alien had crashed just outside the small town of Cedar Falls 3 hours ago. No fanfare, no grand arrival. Just a smoking crater in Farmer Johnson's cornfield and a being from another world. Bleeding out on Sarah's operating table, the creature's eyes opened, large golden orbs that seemed to hold the wisdom of stars. It spoke in a voice like wind. Chimes, but somehow, impossibly, Sarah understood every word. "Please," it whispered. "I carry... Something important cannot... die here." Sarah had seen thousands of patients in her 15 years as an emergency physician. She'd saved lives, lost lives, and fought death more times than she could count. But she'd never seen anything like this. The alien's blood was unlike anything on Earth. It flowed like liquid mercury, shifting between silver and deep blue as it pulsed through translucent veins. Every scan they'd run came back with impossible results. The creature's physiology was completely foreign yet somehow familiar. Dr. Chen Marcus said urgently, "His vitals are crashing. We need to do something now." Sarah stared at the monitors. The alien's 3-part heart was failing. Whatever blood-like substance flowed through its veins was rapidly depleting. In minutes, maybe less, this being from another world would die on her table. "There's no compatible blood type," Marcus continued. "We don't even know what would work." "We can't just wait," Sarah interrupted, her mind racing. Something about the alien's cellular structure seemed familiar. The way the blood cells moved, their unique shape. It reminded her of something she'd studied in medical school. She grabbed a microscope slide and placed a drop of the alien's blood under the lens. What she saw made her gasp. The alien blood cells were trying to adapt. They were actually changing shape, attempting to mimic something they'd been exposed to. And the only thing they'd been exposed to since the crash was human blood. She breathed. "What?" Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "Look at this." Sarah adjusted the focus. "The cells are trying to adapt to human blood chemistry. They're mimicking our red blood cells, but they can't complete the transformation. They need a template." The alien's golden eyes fixed on her again. "You... understand?" it gasped. "Your species... compatible, but dangerous... for you." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Dangerous how? The creature's breathing grew more labored. "The bonding... permanent. Changes both species forever." Marcus grabbed Sarah's arm. "Can't be thinking what I think you're thinking. You don't know what mixing human and alien blood could do. You could die." Sarah looked at the monitors. The alien had maybe 2 minutes left. She thought about the crash site, the strange energy readings, the way the creature had somehow made it to their small hospital, despite being mortally wounded. This wasn't just any alien. This was something important. "Dr. Chen," a nurse called out. "We're getting strange readings from the blood work. The alien's blood is showing signs of... I don't know how to describe this... intelligence." Sarah's eyes widened. Intelligent blood. That explained the adaptation attempts. The alien's blood was literally learning from exposure to human samples. She made her decision. "Prep for direct transfusion," she ordered. "Sarah, no," Marcus protested. "We don't know. We don't know anything," she cut him off. "This being came here for a reason. It's trying to tell us something important. And I'm not going to let it die because we're afraid." She rolled up her sleeve. "Besides, I've always been O-negative. Universal donor, right? If there was ever a time to test that theory." The alien's eyes widened as she approached with the transfusion kit. "You... would risk... your life." "It's what we do," Sarah said simply, inserting the needle into her own arm. "We save lives. Even alien ones." As her blood began to flow through the tube, toward the alien, something extraordinary happened. The red human blood began to change, taking on a silvery sheen as it mixed with the alien's mercury-like fluid. The monitors started beeping frantically as the creature's vital signs began to stabilize. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that Sarah could suddenly hear the alien's thoughts. Not words, but emotions, images, memories that weren't her own. She saw vast cities of crystal and light, ships that sailed between stars, and something else, ... A warning. Something was coming to Earth. Something that had been chasing this alien across the galaxy. And now that their blood was mixing, now that the bonding was complete, Sarah was the only human who could understand what was at stake. The Devourers, she whispered, the alien's memories flooding through her. They're coming. The alien's golden eyes brightened as strength returned to its voice. Yes, 3 days, maybe less. They follow me, ... but now they will find something they did not expect. Sarah felt the change spreading through her veins. Her blood was no longer entirely human, and somehow she knew that everything her life, her world, the entire galaxy, was about to change forever. But first, she had to understand what she was now becoming, and whether humanity was ready for what was coming. Next, Chapter 2, the awakening, the transformation began 12 hours after the transfusion. Sarah woke up in her apartment, her body aching in ways she'd never experienced. It felt like every cell was rebuilding itself from the ground up. She stumbled to the bathroom mirror and froze. Her brown eyes now had flecks of gold in them. Not just any gold, the same luminous gold as the alien's eyes. And when she concentrated, she could see things that weren't there before. Energy patterns in the walls, electromagnetic fields from her appliances, and something else, ... A countdown, ... floating in her peripheral vision like a HUD in a video game were symbols she somehow understood. 2 days, 18 hours, 43 minutes until something arrived. The DEVOUR. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, Sarah, you need to get to the hospital. Now, the alien Kale. He says his name is Khalees, asking for you. And there's something else. The government is here. Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up the tension in Marcus's voice, even through the phone. She could hear his elevated heart rate, the slight tremor that indicated fear. These were abilities she definitely didn't have yesterday. What kind of government? She asked, though she already suspected the answer. The kind that wears black suits and doesn't show ID. Sarah, what did you do? She closed her eyes and suddenly she was seeing through Kale's eyes. The alien was in a government facility now, not the hospital. White walls, armed guards, scientists in hazmat suits taking samples of his blood. He was awake, alert, and looking for her. The mental connection between them was growing stronger. Sarah. His voice echoed in her mind. They do not understand. They think I am the threat. But the real danger comes from above. It must come. You are the only one who can help them prepare. Sarah blinked, and the vision faded. She was back in her bathroom, staring at her transformed reflection. Marcus, where exactly is he now? Some kind of black site facility about 30 miles north of town. Sarah, they're asking questions about you too. About the transfusion. They want to know what you did. Of course they did. A crashed alien spacecraft and a successful blood transfusion between species was exactly the kind of thing that would attract attention from the highest levels of government. Sarah quickly dressed and headed for her car, but as she reached for the door handle, she heard something that made her blood run cold. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Military precision. They were already here. The knock on her door was polite but firm. Dr. Chen, we're with the CDC. We need to speak with you about your patient from yesterday. Sarah almost laughed. The CDC, right? She could hear their thoughts, now fragments of orders, mission parameters, concern about containment protocols. They weren't CDC. They were military and they were scared. Do not resist, Kale's voice whispered in her mind. Come with them. It is the only way to reach the ones who can make decisions, the ones who can save your world. She opened the door. 3 people in dark suits stood on her porch. The lead agent was a woman in her 40s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Dr. Chen, I'm Agent Morrison. We need to discuss your interaction with the extraterrestrial entity. For the safety of everyone involved, we're going to need you to come with us." Sarah nodded. "I understand. Hey, but Agent Morrison, there's something you need to know. The alien Kale, he didn't come here by accident. He was running from something, and that something is going to be here in less than 3 days." Agent Morrison's expression didn't change, but Sarah could sense her thoughts racing. Fear, skepticism, and underneath it all, a growing dread that maybe, just maybe, this was real. "We'll discuss that at the facility. Dr. Chen, please step outside." As they drove through the countryside toward the black site facility, Sarah closed her eyes and reached out with her new abilities. She could sense Kale's presence growing stronger as they approached, but she could sense something else too. High above Earth's atmosphere, something was moving. Multiple somethings, large, predatory, and hungry. The devourers were coming ahead. Of schedule, Sarah Kale's mental voice was urgent. Asterisk, they accelerate their approach. Perhaps 1 da. Why? Maybe less. We must convince your leaders quickly. The Earth's defenses. They will not be enough. Asterisk through the car window. Sarah looked up at the afternoon sky. It looked so peaceful, so normal. But she knew that soon, very soon, that peace would be shattered. The question was, would humanity be ready for what was coming? More importantly, would her transformation be enough to help them survive what was about to happen? The black site facility loomed ahead, all concrete and razor wire. But Sarah wasn't afraid anymore. She could feel power coursing through her veins, Leon power, human determination, something new that was both and neither. She was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The question was whether she could become it fast enough. Chapter 3. The revelation: the facility was a maze of sterile corridors and reinforced doors. Agent Morrison led Sarah through multiple security checkpoints, each one more advanced than the last. Anal scanners, biometric locks, devices that hummed with technology Sarah didn't recognize. Impressive setup for something that supposedly doesn't exist, Sarah commented as they passed armed guards. Morrison's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "Dr. Chen, in about 5 minutes you're going to learn that a lot of things you thought didn't exist are very real." They entered a large briefing room filled with military officials, scientists, and people in expensive suits who had the unmistakable aura of politicians. At the front of the room, on a massive screen, was a live feed of Kale. The alien was in what looked like a medical facility, but Sarah could see the restraints. They were treating him as a prisoner, not a patient. "Dr. Chen." A general with silver hair stepped forward. "I'm General Patricia Hayes, director of this facility. We need to understand exactly what happened during your ... procedure." Sarah looked around the room. 23 people, all with their own fears and agendas. She could sense their thoughts. More clearly now, worry about invasion, concern about contamination, and underneath it all, the human tendency to fear what they didn't understand. General Hayes, respectfully, "You're asking the wrong questions," Sarah said. "The question isn't what happened to me. The question is whether you're ready for what's coming." A man in a suit leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, we've had our top xenobiologists examine the aliens' claims. The idea that some kind of space fleet is approaching Earth is 47 hours and 32 minutes away," Sarah interrupted. "And they're not a fleet. They're something much worse." The room fell silent. Sarah could feel their skepticism, but also their growing unease. Now, Kale's voice whispered in her mind, "Show them." Sarah closed her eyes and reached out with her transformed abilities. The room's lights flickered as her consciousness expanded, touching the facility's computer systems, the satellite networks, the deep space monitoring arrays. "Dr. Chen, what are you?" General Hayes began. "Watch the screen," Sarah said. The feed from Kale's cell was replaced by something else entirely. Deep space telescope images began flooding the display. At first they showed empty space. Then Sarah's enhanced perception kicked in, filtering through electromagnetic spectrums. Invisible to normal human eyes, the images revealed massive shapes moving through the void between stars. Not ships in any conventional sense, but living things. Creatures the size of cities, with hide like black metal and eyes like dying stars. "My God," whispered one of the scientists. "How many are there?" Sarah felt the count flowing through her transformed consciousness. 12, each one capable of consuming entire worlds. They've been tracking Kale across the galaxy for months. Room erupted in worried voices, but General Hayes held up her hand for silence. "Dr. Chen, assuming this is real, why should we believe you can help us?" "What makes you qualified to advise Earth's defense?" Sarah turned to face the general directly. As she did, her eyes began to glow with the same golden light as Kale's. "Because, General, I'm not entirely human anymore. The blood transfusion didn't just save Kale's life. It created something new, something the Devourers have never encountered before." She gestured to the screen, where the images of the approaching creatures continued to scroll. "They're not just hunters, General. They're a hive mind. Each creature is connected to the others, sharing knowledge, tactics, everything they've learned. From consuming other worlds, they know how to defeat every species they've encountered." "But not humans," said a voice from the speakers. It was Kale, speaking from his cell. "Not anymore. The bonding with Dr. Chen has created something unprecedented. A hybrid consciousness that exists in both our species simultaneously." General Hayes stared at Sarah. "What exactly are you saying?" Sarah felt the truth settling into her mind like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. "I'm saying that what happened to me wasn't an accident. Kale didn't crash here randomly. It came here specifically because human blood chemistry was compatible with his species. He came here to create something new." "Create what?" demanded the man in the suit. "A bridge," Sarah answered, "between our species, a way to share knowledge, capabilities, even consciousness itself. The Devourers have never faced a truly cooperative species. They've never encountered a world where two entirely different forms of life could become one." She turned back to the screen, where the massive creatures continued their approach. They're expecting to find a divided Earth, humans fighting humans. Nations against nations, the same pattern they've seen on every world they've consumed. But that's not what they're going to find. "Tell them about the network," Kale's voice urged in her mind. Sarah nodded. "Out, the blood transfusion didn't just change me. It created a potential network. With the right preparation, what happened to me could happen to others. Not everyone, the process is dangerous, and it requires willing participants from both species, but enough to create a planetary defense unlike anything the Devourers have seen." General Hayes leaned back in her chair. "You're talking about creating?" "Human-alien hybrids. I'm talking about evolution," Sarah corrected. "I'm talking about two species choosing to become something greater than either could be alone." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah could sense the mixture of fear, hope, and desperate calculation running through their minds. Finally, the general spoke. "Dr. Chen, if you're right, if this is real, then we need to know everything. How many people could undergo this process? How quickly? And most importantly..." Sarah smiled, and for the first time since the transformation began, she felt truly confident. "Most importantly, General, are you ready to find out what humanity can become when we stop fighting alone?" Outside, the countdown in her peripheral vision ticked steadily downward. 46 hours and 17 minutes. The Devourers were coming. But maybe, just maybe, they were about to discover that Earth wasn't like the other worlds they'd consumed. Maybe they were about to discover what happened when predators met prey that could evolve in real time. The question was, would 46 hours be enough to find out? Chapter 4. The network awakens. The transformation chamber looked like something from a science fiction movie, but Sarah knew it was all too real. Over the past 36 hours, the facility had been converted into a hybrid research and preparation center. Scientists, military personnel, and volunteers from around the globe had arrived in secret. Sarah stood before a group of 12 volunteers, doctors, soldiers, engineers, and linguists, willing to undergo the same transformation she had experienced. Each had been thoroughly briefed on the risks. The bonding process had a 60% survival rate. Not great odds, but better than the 0% chance of survival if the Devourers arrived to find an unprepared Earth. Kale was finally free from his restraints. Working alongside human scientists to refine the process, his golden eyes met. Sarah's across the room, and she felt the familiar warmth of their mental connection. Asterisk, are you ready? His voice whispered in her mind. Sarah nodded. In the 10 hours since the Devourers had been detected, she'd undergone tests that revealed the full extent of her transformation. Her reflexes were 3 times faster than normal. Her strength had doubled. Her brain processed information at speeds that made computers seem slow. But most importantly, she could share these abilities through the mental network that connected her to Kale. Ladies and gentlemen, General Hayes announced to the assembled volunteers, I won't lie to you. What you're about to attempt has never been done before. We're essentially creating a new form of human being. But our analysis suggests it may be our only chance. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, a neuroscientist from MIT, raised her hand. Dr. Chen, can you describe what the connection feels like? What we should expect? Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the constant presence of Kale's thoughts alongside her own. It's like, imagine if you suddenly had access to another person's memories, but they weren't foreign. They became part of you. Kale's knowledge of advanced technology, space travel, energy manipulation, it's all accessible to me now. And in return, he has access to human creativity, adaptability, our capacity for rapid learning. The pain? Asked Captain James Rodriguez, a Special Forces operative. Tense, Sarah admitted. Your body is literally rebuilding itself at the cellular level, but it passes. And what you become afterward? She gestured, and the lights in the room dimmed in response to her mental command. The possibilities are limitless. Sarah Kale's voice was urgent in her mind. Asterisk, something is wrong. The Devers. ... They have changed course. They are arriving faster than predicted. Asterisk, Sarah's eyes snapped open. How long do we have? Asterisk, 8 hours. Maybe less. Asterisk, General Hayes caught Sarah's expression. What is it? They're coming faster than expected. 8 hours, maximum. The room erupted in worried voices, but Sarah held up her hand. We still have time, but we need to start the process now. The first volunteer was Dr. Reeves. As she lay on the medical table, Kale approached with a device that looked like a crystalline flower. This will regulate the bonding process, he explained. Make it safer, more controlled. Sarah took her position at the monitoring station. Through her enhanced consciousness, she could oversee the entire process, guiding the transformation in real time. Beginning transfusion, announced Dr. Webb, who had become the lead physician for the project, as the alien blood began to flow into Dr. Reeves. Sarah felt a new presence touch her mind. Faint at first, then stronger as the bonding took hold. Asterisk, Sarah? Dr. Reeves's mental voice was uncertain, afraid. I'm here, Sarah responded. Asterisk, you're not alone. None of us are alone anymore. Asterisk, one by one, the volunteers underwent the transformation. Not all survived. They lost 3 people to rejection responses. But 9 succeeded, and as each new hybrid awakened, the network grew stronger. Sarah could feel them all. No distinct personalities, but connected by something deeper than thought. It was like being part of a symphony, each mind contributing its own unique notes to a greater harmony. Captain Rodriguez was the last to awaken. As his eyes opened, now flecked with gold, he sat up with inhuman grace. I can feel them, he said. All of you. It's incredible. And we can feel you. The collective voice of the network responded in his mind. General Hayes approached Sarah. Dr. Chen, our satellites are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Whatever's coming, it's big. Sarah nodded, her consciousness already reaching out through the network to the facility's defense systems. Then it's time to see what we've become. She turned to address the room, but she wasn't speaking to just the people present. The network, her voice reached every hybrid, every connected mind. The Devourers think they're coming to consume another world. They think they'll find the same pattern they've seen 1,000 times before: a species that fights alone, divided by fear and mistrust. Around the room, golden eyes began to glow as the network synchronized. They're wrong, Sarah continued. They've never encountered a species that could evolve in real time. They've never faced a world where individual consciousness could unite without losing individuality. Through the network, she could feel the collective agreement, the shared determination. The question isn't whether we can stop them, Sarah said, her voice carrying the authority of the entire hybrid network. The question is whether they're ready for what humanity can become when we choose to evolve. High above Earth, the first Devourer ship entered the solar system, its massive bulk blotting out stars as it approached. But for the first time in cosmic history, a world was ready to fight back with more than just weapons. Earth was about to show the galaxy what happened when predators met prey that could transform itself in the space of heartbeats. The real battle was about to begin. Epilogue. The Galaxies. New Guardians 6 months after the Devourer's arrival, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the orbital station that had once been their flagship. The massive creature had been not destroyed, but transformed, converted from a weapon of consumption into a center of learning and cooperation. Through the vast transparent walls, she could see Earth below, but it wasn't the same world she'd known. Cities now glowed with hybrid technology that merged human innovation with alien knowledge. Ships moved between Earth and the Moon on streams of energy that defied the old laws of physics. And in the space between worlds, construction continued on what would become the galaxy's first truly cooperative defense network. The Galactic Council has approved our proposal, Kale's voice whispered in her mind. Even after all this time, their connection remained as strong as ever. Sarah smiled. The Galactic Council representatives from 47 different worlds, all species that had hidden from the Devourers for millennia. Earth's victory had changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, someone had not just survived an encounter with the Devourers, but had actually converted them. It turned out that the creatures weren't evil exactly. They were ancient, hungry, and driven by an imperative to consume and preserve the essence of other species. But they had never encountered a species capable of true symbiosis. When the hybrid network had made contact with the Devourer hive mind, something unprecedented had happened. They had chosen to evolve together. The first class of Galactic Guardians graduates next week. Dr. Reeves' voice joined the mental conversation. She was on the Lunar Research Station, overseeing the training of volunteers from across the galaxy who wanted to undergo their own transformation processes. Each species required a different approach. What worked for human kale hybrids was only the beginning. The principle remained the same. Two willing species could become something greater than either could achieve alone. Sarah. Captain Rodriguez's voice carried a note of urgency. He was commanding the new Deep Space Patrol, keeping watch for other threats. We're detecting something at the edge of the galaxy. Not hostile, but curious. They're broadcasting mathematical sequences. Sarah felt her consciousness expand. Through the network, touching the minds of hundreds of hybrids across the solar system and beyond, the network had grown far beyond its original 12 members. Now, it included humans, Kale's people, converted Devourers, and representatives from a dozen other species. Through their collective awareness, she could sense the new arrivals. Ancient beings from the galactic core, older than any known civilization. They had been watching, waiting, evaluating. They want to make contact, Sarah realized. They've been testing us. The implications were staggering. These beings had apparently been observing galactic civilizations for eons, but had never intervened. Until now, General Hayes, now heading the United Earth Defense Council, joined the conversation. Dr. Chen, are we ready for first contact with beings this advanced? Sarah looked out at the transformed Earth, at the ships carrying hybrid crews to distant stars. At the beginning of what might become a truly galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. We're as ready as anyone can be, she replied. Besides, we've learned that the most important thing isn't being ready. It's being willing to evolve. Asterisk, she thought back to that night in the emergency room, when she'd made the decision to give her blood to a dying alien. She'd had no idea that choice would lead to this, to humanity becoming something new, to Earth becoming the center of a galactic alliance, to the very concept of what it meant to be human, expanding beyond anything previously imagined. Asterisk the new. Arrivals are requesting permission to approach, Captain Rodriguez reported. Sarah felt the collective decision of the network not unanimous, but close enough. Hope mixed with caution, curiosity tempered by wisdom, learned through recent trials. Asterisk grant. Them safe passage, asterisk, she decided. Let's see what the galaxy has to teach us next. As the ancient ships began their approach, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. The hybrid network now spanned dozens of worlds. The Devourers had become partners in creation rather than agents of destruction. And humanity had discovered that its greatest strength wasn't in standing alone, but in choosing to become something more. The girl who had donated blood to save a dying alien had become the woman who helped two species evolve together, and now, as new mysteries approached from the galactic core, she knew that the greatest adventures were still ahead. Asterisk, are you ready? Kale asked, his mental voice carrying the same question he'd asked her in the emergency room all those months ago. Sarah smiled, feeling the presence of hundreds of minds linked to hers, each one unique but part of something greater. We're ready, she replied. All of us, together. Above Earth, the stars beckoned with infinite possibilities. And for the first time in galactic history, a world was ready to answer that call, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all, the evolution of consciousness itself. The network pulsed with shared anticipation as the ancient ships drew closer, carrying with them the promise of wonders yet to be discovered. Humanity had learned to evolve. Now it was time to learn what they could become.